We are called to be free through Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, in which, by his grace, we reclaim God's original plan for us, this life of love and unity, in which we are free from our guilt and can begin to start to forgive others. And we also are mysteriously, as I said before, elevated to be sons in the Son, that we hear at Mass when the priest says, "May by the mingling of this water and wine, may we come to share the divinity of Christ, who humbled himself to share in our humanity." So mysteriously, we're called to participate in God's own divinity, in which fullness we will receive in heaven. God is with us through all things, even the greatest sufferings and evil, which he already experienced through the cross, and brought victory through the resurrection, in which he proved that love is stronger than even death. Even though he's brought the definitive victory, he invites us to continue to fight the battle through history. Now, I have given some general reasons why the gospel is good news, but each of us has to ask ourselves, how is the gospel good news for me? Only to the extent that I see the kerygma as good news will it impact me, and when I feel that I have something to share with others. Personally, I can point to two instances when I came to know the gospel clearly and was impacted by its beauty. One was in my freshman year of college, when I was in that Bible study I was talking about earlier with Campus Crusade for Christ, when it truly impacted me, I think for the first time, where I realized that Christ died for me, that he loves me that much. How many times had I heard that many times in my head, but I finally perceived it in my heart. And this is a true challenge for us, brothers and sisters. Making the head knowledge we might have in our faith go down to be lived relational knowledge. A second is when I came to know the beauty of the gospel through learning about the theology of the body. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before, but it was a series of talks given by St. John Paul II from 1979 to 1984, where he spoke about the meaning of life as revealed through our bodies, particularly in light of God's plan for our sexuality and marriage. Through this wonderful teaching, I came to know that God's original plan for us was more amazing than I could imagine. And even though we have fallen from it, that Christ came into the world not to condemn us, but to give us the power to slowly reclaim what we had originally lost through sin. In responding to the gospel, there is often a journey in which one undertakes to intentional discipleship, including 5 stages, which I'm going to be taking from a wonderful book called Forming Intentional Disciples, The Path to Knowing and Following Jesus by Sherry Waddell, which I would highly recommend. She took 5 stages from an article from a campus ministry in California, which was working with young people who were experiencing conversions to Christianity, and they saw a pattern in these conversions. The first stage of this journey is trust. As with any relationship, its foundation is trust. So with the invitation to the ultimate relationship with God, the foundation must be trust. People at this stage need to find a positive connection to God, Christ, the church, or a believing Christian. In many places, there is distrust of Christianity and Catholicism, so there needs to be some type of bridge through where people are at to the things of God. This trust can potentially come through the media, especially living in this age of Pope Francis, who has helped to really repair the image of the Catholic Church in the public spotlight for many. But ultimately, this trust only comes through a relationship with another person. The second stage is curiosity, which includes awareness that there are great possibilities of which that one had not considered before, such as having a personal relationship with God who loves you. Personal engagement, meaning that he or she starts to take steps in this relationship, such as befriending a Christian, learning more about Christ, beginning to ask questions and dialogue about ideas related to our faith. What can spark a person's Christianity is when we as Christians do countercultural Christian works, such as forgiving an enemy, living a healthy relationship, caring for the poor, praying, having peace amidst trial, or even giving away our possessions. Again, while Pope Francis has renewed people's trust in the church, he can also spark people's curiosity as to why does he embrace that disfigured man? Why does he love the handicapped and prioritize the poor? Why does he live in great simplicity? The third stage is openness, in which there's a tentative consideration to God and spiritual conversion. One may not be sure if having a relationship with God is actually a possibility for me, but one begins to be open to this idea. During this step, one must lower their defenses and admit to oneself that one is open to change. This can be scary, crazy, and out of control for some people, especially if for most of our lives, fueled by our culture, we're in the driver's seat of our lives. We determine the vision for our lives. But now we're being open to having this relationship with God where He would be the priority. Some might want to try to give God a trial run. The fourth step is seeking, which is a truly active step in which one is choosing to investigate more deeply a relationship with Christ. At this stage, one needs to have the knowledge that one can have a personal relationship with God, because that is what one is investigating. Seekers come to see the consequences of a relationship with God, and don't see it just as a set of truths to ascend to, or as fire insurance, a way to get out of hell. Often people at this stage start to pray and are convicted of sin. And the fifth step is intentional discipleship, where one realizes that one cannot seek forever. He or she must make a decision or just forget the whole thing. It is important at this stage that one make a clear commitment to Christ to be an intentional disciple. One might not understand everything in terms of the church's teachings, but first of all, the call is to give up everything and follow Christ. Over time, hopefully, one can address the issues that flow as a consequence of our relationship with Christ, such as the moral life, the church's teachings, and the habits of mature discipleship. Intentional discipleship is about encountering Christ in a life-changing way. God is personal and not removed from us. An encounter is a personal experience which changes us. It is no longer just the truth, but it's the truth that has changed me. Now, as we embrace this call to intentional discipleship, it's not the end of our spiritual journey, but the beginning of the pathway to sainthood and living the fullness of the Christian life. If we don't make a true decision for Him, we are running the risk of being swept away by the tsunami of secularism, to borrow a term from John Cardinal Wuerl, who was the Archbishop of Washington, D.C. Think about a tsunami. It destroys everything in its path. Our society has largely divested itself of reference to God, and faith has been relegated to just the realm of one's personal life. I sense that the Lord has allowed us to live in this time period as to invite us to choose to truly make a decision for or against Him and His church. In ages past, our culture supported Christian values, so one's faith could be pushed along by peer pressure. But today, this is no longer the case. If in freedom we choose to follow Christ intentionally, it changes everything in our lives for the better. In order to start to understand this radical change for our good, let us take as an example the call of the first apostles. This is the account from the Gospel according to Matthew. As he walked by the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon, who was called Peter, and Andrew and his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishermen. And he said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. And going on from there, he saw two other brothers, James, the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee, their father, mending their nets, and he called them. Immediately they left the boat and their father and followed him.